Pittsburgh studios at WHIG, it's Up Late with Sam Bass.
As always, thank you, Scott Smith, for that great introduction, and welcome to Up Late with Sam Bass. Maybe, maybe not, can I be wearing a mask? Have you seen the Mission Impossible movies where you think you're watching one character, then they peel off the face, and it's actually another character? Wearing a mask, just saying. Who knows? Speaking of spy movies, our guest tonight is a former CIA agent and author of a new novel called The Syndicate Spy. I hope she doesn't try to peel off my face and blow my cover. I have so much I want to ask her tonight about her book and her career. But first, we actually have another guest I want to bring out before we get to Brittany. You know, this is a big summer for movies. Tom Cruise has just got the new Mission Impossible out. Came out, there's another thriller, Oppenheimer, about the physicist that helped release and develop the atom bomb. You may have heard of that. You have definitely heard of the other one I'm going to talk about. It's a little movie called Barbie. So my next guest, we're really excited to have her here. You know her. Here she is, the one and only, or one, maybe the one in a million, Barbie. So, Barbie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I'm a huge fan of yours. Really, you're a lot smaller in person than I pictured you. So I want to ask you about your new movie. What is the plot exactly? Robbie, can you check her mic? I don't think it's working. Okay, we got the sign from Robbie. Let's try that again. So, Will Ferrell plays the CEO of Mattel in this movie. You know, he's going to be on our show at some point. We're trying to coordinate our schedule. My people are getting with his people, but I'm sure you understand. Can you tell us what it was like working with Will Ferrell? Okay. Maybe she's nervous. I can understand that because, that's just the way it is with the lights and everything. So, being around me, I am kind of a big deal, so I understand that. So I read in the LA Times that your movie won the whole Barbenheimer thing. So everybody knows what the Barbenheimer, the Barbie versus Oppenheimer thing. That's pretty exciting, right? How does that make you feel? I feel like a therapist over here. How does that make you feel? But, I think Barbie's cat got her tongue, maybe. I don't know. So I have one more question for Barbie. Barbie, what is your favorite insect? There's an answer we can all live with. So, all right. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe we can talk again soon. That was like talking to a piece of plastic. Very, very tough interview right there, but we'll be right back with Brittany Butler.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Let it rain, Randy! Woo! Yes! By being prepared for anything! Woo! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
So my second guest tonight, I promise, will not be as plastic as the first guest. She is the author of The Syndicate Spy, and her name is Brittany Butler. I really appreciate her taking her time to come visit with us. Brittany, welcome to Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Yes, great to have you. So this book was just released earlier this year, correct?
Yep, March.
How long roughly did it take you to write the book?
Oh gosh, I think I was learning how to write. Initially, I think anybody who's kind of starting off from scratch, you have to learn how to write a novel. I was used to government writing, which is much different, where you're kind of starting with like the main idea and then like kind of supporting ideas or after that, kind of like college writing. And so novel writing took me a while to kind of get the hang of. So I would say like 6 years altogether for that book. But it's interesting because book 2, I've done in like 6 months because now I know how to write.
Oh, so I was going to ask you because it's Juliet Arroway installment number 1. So you're working on number 2.
Yes. It's actually done. I'm in the editorial phase right now. So I have to get it over to my editor actually in a couple weeks.
So I actually have read the book. And so you would know that if you read the book because there's kind of a cliffhanger type ending to it.
Yeah.
Lots of really curveballs at the end. So I would highly recommend it. I also would like to say it has been ranked in the top 10 books for the New York Post, correct?
Yes, just on Saturday.
And they're calling it the top summer action book reads, something along those lines?
Yes. So I'm right up there with Daniel Silva, Jack Carr, all the top spy thrillers right now. Most of them written by men. I'm one of the only females in that list, so definitely check it out.
Very impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
So have you always enjoyed writing? Is that something you'd like in high school, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I really have always been into writing. I was pretty good at writing in my job too at the CIA. That was something I always got compliments from my bosses and people in the field just saying that my writing was really concise, to the point, but I was able to include all the supporting intelligence that we needed in order to run a particular operation. So I've always really enjoyed it, and for me it's a kind of therapy because I couldn't talk about what I did for so long. Everything I did was a secret.
Right.
I had to be invisible. And so it's kind of like therapeutic to be able to write about those experiences in a fictional way. So I really, really enjoy it.
It's very interesting. I mean, I got to going on it early, and once I got going, I got sucked in. So, I finished it fairly rapidly, but I really enjoyed it. It's a great story.
Good.
I think it would make a good movie.
Think you are actually in the talks about that right now. Yep.
So, if it were made into a movie, who would you see playing you?
Oh God! Well, I'm not in the book. So,
I get it.
So
but
Juliet.
Right, Juliet.
Yes.
The character Juliet, who I'm picturing is you. But go ahead.
Yes. Gosh, there's so many wonderful actresses out there. I would hate to pigeonhole myself into one because if one signs and the other, so I would just be so delighted and happy to just hear who would want to be involved in the project.
That would be very cool. So I do want to read one of the reviews from the book that I thought was great. It's a 5-star review, and I gave you a review. Mine was a 5-star, by the way, on Amazon.
Thank you.
So this one says, "Wow, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect going into this book, but it was everything and more. This spy thriller fully got me out of my reading slump." And I'm not a big reader, I'm going to tell you that, but this is how it made me feel too.
Yeah.
"This spy thriller fully got me out of the slump. The attention to details, the twists and turns, the romance, I thoroughly enjoyed every second of this. If you're looking for an action thriller with a perfect dose of romance, this book is for you. I guess it could be considered a Bourne, as in Jason Bourne, level thriller with the nuance of a strong female lead." I can't agree with it more because it really is twists and turns. At the end of this book, I'm like, wait a minute, he did that, and it's one of those kind of books. So you really need to take your time and get out there. By the way, what's the best way to get the book? I know there's several different avenues.
Yeah, so I would say Amazon's a really quick way to get it. Barnes & Noble, all your local bookstores have it. I think Books A Million is pretty close around here. You should be able to get it at Books A Million.
Okay. So I did want to mention, I did have a little bit of an awkward moment when I'd asked you the question during the course of me reading your book and us emailing and corresponding. I said, is the book about you? Because I was picturing you every time I would read the book. Yeah. But then until it got to the romance scenes, and I felt a little bit creepy about that. So I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. It's all right. I think anytime you write a book like this and you're drawing from your own personal experiences, you're going to infuse the character with those experiences. So I think you're going to get a really unique perspective, a real perspective on what it's like to be in the CIA, what it's like to live that life undercover. What's it like to be a woman in the Middle East that, you know, has got blonde hair, green eyes? It's kind of a unique experience. And I feel like, you know, Juliet, she really embodies a lot of those experiences, but she's a totally fictional character that I drew up. So.
Oh, when you mentioned blonde hair, green eyes, there's a lot of that in the book.
Yeah.
That's a dead giveaway over there that you're not from the Middle East.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Now let's talk a little bit about, you know, your career before you started writing.
Yes,
You're a former CIA targeting officer, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that.
So a targeting officer is in the Directorate of Operations. So at CIA, there's 3 different divisions. There's the Directorate of Operations, or the National Clandestine Service. There's the Directorate of Support, and then there's the Directorate of Science and Technology. Oh, and there's 4 actually. Directorate of Intelligence, which is the analysts, the people who write up the presidential daily brief, things like that. The Director of Science and Technology, they make the gadgets. Director of Operations, they actually go out and they do the actual handling of our spies overseas. So I was the Director of Operations, and a targeting officer specific to counterterrorism operations, you're supporting kill capture operations of high value targets in the war zones. So I worked in the Counterterrorism Center for all 9 years of my career. I spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, Pakistan Division, Iraq, and some other countries in the Middle East. So what that involved is I was providing targeting support for either our special forces or our drone program with the actioning of those high value targets. So
that's good. I
Yeah.
saw an Instagram post
Yeah.
that you put up about, there was a female, was she a targeting agent that kind of led to Osama bin Laden's capture?
So that was just about the movie. So there's a movie made
Right.
called Zero Dark 30.
Right.
Yep. And I put up on Instagram a picture of the actress, Jessica Chastain, that played the targeting officer
Okay.
that helped provide the information we needed to action that target.
Okay.
So, that was that movie. If you're looking for a realistic movie about targeting operations, that's a great one to watch.
So to get into CIA, what are some of the background checks and things you have to go through? Because I know one of the things I had seen you talk about on your Instagram was them trying to get you to lie
Right.
about your college experience and that kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's a quite extensive process. You need something called a top secret SCI. It's a sensitive compartmentalized information with a lifestyle polygraph clearance, which is the highest you can get. And that involves like a really thorough background investigation where you fill out this form called an SF-86 and you write down everywhere you've ever lived, 3 people where you've lived that can, talk about your character and about what they know about you. And then they dive even deeper than that. And then they go off and they interview those. They ask those 3 people, can they give them 3 more people? So they are really digging deep into your background to make sure that you don't have any skeletons in your closet. And then after that information is received, then you go through a series of polygraph examinations. And that can be, an 8-hour examination. That can be 3 8-hour examinations, just depending upon how it goes initially. And then there's, of course, like the physical side of it, like you're doing drug testing and blood work and things of that nature. So it's pretty extensive. Yeah.
Okay, so you answered my next question.
Yeah.
Could I be a CIA agent? But after hearing all that,
Yeah.
I can tell you the answer is absolutely no. I would never pass any of that stuff. But anyway, so some of the current situations in the world,
Yeah.
the whole spy balloon, what's your take on that Chinese spy balloon?
Well, I think that the conflict with China is going to really just come down to technology. I think that that's probably was their intention in any kind of surveillance operation, if that is in fact what it was. I can't speak authoritatively about that operation because, of course, I'm not at CIA anymore,
Right.
and that was never my area of expertise. But if I was a betting woman, I would say that they were doing some kind of surveillance of our military installments or intelligence installments, and they were trying to collect what technology we have that can be used, on the battlefield. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. If there's any kind of, world war that's going to go on, I think it will be between the United States and China, and I think technology will be the major factor.
Right.
And I think that China they lag behind us in military technology, and so they're constantly trying to, gain an edge on that. So I think that's probably what that spy balloon stuff was all about.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it came over North Carolina, and I figured some good old boys were taking some shots at it, but we were down at the coast when it was going over, and there's some people that saw it. We didn't see it. We kind of looked up like, where would it be, but we never saw it. But the boys took it down though, which was good. But after it had been over the entire country, so
I know.
Anyway.
I know, and it's a little odd too. I feel like maybe it was a distraction from something else, because we all know they have better technology than balloons.
Right.
Like, it's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this whole Russia-Ukraine? How do you see it ending up? What do you see happening?
Well, I think that we have to really pay particular attention to what happens with Russia internally. So you had Yevgeny Prigozhin, the military commander in charge of the Wagner Group, the mercenaries, basically, almost take over Moscow. And I think that if civil war ensued, that would be a really good thing for Ukraine, but because it would kind of distract Putin and the Russian military, because they'd be, dealing with internal strife. But also, I think just like as a whole, you don't want someone like Yevgeny Prigozhin coming into power and taking over Russia. So Putin is bad guy, right? No one likes Putin, but what is the option there? Who would replace him? And I think that's where, we have to watch and see how things play out in Russia. And I think it would really behoove us to, if we get involved at all in the Ukraine conflict, how that would affect a potential, larger conflict with Russia.
Right, so the enemy kind of deal, right?
Right, yes.
Right, so
yes.
we could be worse off.
It could be worse.
Yes. So do you think Putin has an inferiority complex?
I mean, I think most international actors that act the way he has have some kind of psychological issue. I think it's a little bit of this power complex where when they feel threatened or they feel like they're losing their power, they tend to act more outlandish, more outside of how they've normally acted. So I think Putin probably feels threatened by, he's leading a very unpopular war in Russia, and, Russian men and women are dying because of it, and the Russian people don't support it. And so I think that he's under a lot of pressure internally, but then also externally to save face. If he loses in Ukraine, I think militarily his power is going to be in question.
Right. Well, maybe he's trying to compensate for something else going on in his life. Who knows?
Who knows?
So, on the back of your bio, on your book cover, it says you're very active in the fight for women's rights in the Middle East and Afghanistan, particularly the Middle East and Afghanistan. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my last account at the CIA was in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and so I feel really passionate about women's rights in Afghanistan in particular, because I saw what happens to them under the Taliban's rule. And I think a lot of us that have been involved in that conflict, that a lot of service members have died in Afghanistan after 9/11 combating the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. I think it's been really hard for a lot of us to see what's happened in that country in terms of the Taliban taking over so swiftly and what they've done in terms of just really cutting out all women's rights. I mean, women can't go to school anymore. They can't attend university. They can't have jobs. It's all very disheartening. So I've tried to do what I can at the local level in my community in terms of helping Afghan refugees. So I feel like we have a real duty to uphold a lot of the alliances that we've made with the Afghan people to defeat the Taliban, to defeat Al-Qaeda. I don't think we would have been able to do that after 9/11 if it wasn't for the cooperation of the Afghan people. And so I think, we have a duty to uphold those alliances, those commitments to them. And so the people that we have, brought over to the United States that have sought asylum with us because they've been involved in those counterterrorism operations and their lives have been, under threat. I think we have to make sure that they succeed in our country, or give them all the tools they need to succeed. And then as far as like Afghan women in particular, I've been really fortunate to be involved with an organization called the IBU Movement. And they're actually based out of Charleston, South Carolina. And we sell garments that the Afghan women make in Kandahar. It's one of the only things that the women are able to do under the Taliban, is to make make clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll actually be wearing tomorrow at an event a beautiful garment made by Afghan women in Kandahar.
Wow.
And I'm just so excited to be a part of something really tangible that the money goes directly to the women that need it.
So I will say that if you read her book, you really see there is a lot of strong females in the book. Mm-hmm. And the book is set a little bit in the future. Mm-hmm. And it's a very interesting ending and a very shocking ending involving some of the stronger females in the book. So I can kind of see why you are taking that angle in the book because of the real life version of this.
Yeah, I feel like those women are often victimized. They're often looked at like lesser or victimized, and they are so powerful. They're so resilient. They have survived decades of civil war and unrest, and they refuse to be victimized. And I really wanted to showcase that in the book, a really powerful Arab woman who takes control of her own fate.
Mm-hmm. Buy the book. You will not be sorry. It is a great summer read, without question. The Syndicate Spy by Brittany Butler. My guest tonight, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you're ever back in the area, we'd love to have you on again and talk about your second book.
Wonderful. Sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Let it rain, Randy! Woo! Yes! By being prepared for anything! Woo! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. I want to thank my guest, Brittany Butler, author of The Syndicate Spy, for stopping by and visiting. And I'll let you know next week we got a very interesting show with a local attorney, John Liu. He's much more than a local attorney. Tune in and find out. Hey, thanks for watching. See you soon.